This is going to be a 5-part series on getting to know me. I'm the artist Darren Cannell, who is in charge of the Drawing Digitally YouTube channel and the Drawing Digitally online course that I have designed. When I was young, I didn't know at the time, but I was attention deficit. I also was a very anxious child, which I didn't know at the time. Two things. I didn't know I was anxious. The second thing is I didn't know I was almost hyperactive or I had an attention span problem. What I found is that I became a lot more successful if I drew all the time, or if I kept my hands busy. I found I could pay attention to what the teacher was saying and I would do better. And so at a very young age, I found that doodling helped me concentrate. And because of that, I started to draw. D&D student. My dad was in the military and we traveled. So before I was 16 years of age, I had spent more time outside of Canada than I had in Canada and had the opportunity to see a lot of different places in the world. And as an artist, I think that to me, it was a lot of the catalyst for some of the pictures that I paint. Since then, we have done, my family and I'm married, we have done lots and lots of I took a whole year off and traveled 35 country trip with 65 flights and had the opportunity to see a lot of the world. And so I recorded our trip in digital drawing. And so I have lots of drawings that I would never ever show anybody, but when I look at them, I know where I was when I drew them. I did take some painting classes with a local artist who had a studio, and at the time I was living in a house trailer, and so I didn't have a lot of money, and I didn't want to have a studio in my house trailer. It was small enough as it was, and I didn't want to have to put up with the odors of oil paints at that time, so I actually did some oil painting classes at the studio with a local artist. That's the only formal education I've ever had in art. Everything else was self-taught. Things that I wanted to do, and I still haven't achieved what I consider to be the standard that you want in an artist. And that standard is to be able to take the images that I have in my head and put them down on the page. That is my long-term goal, and it is something that I'll continue to work on for the rest of my life. It's what I consider an artist to be. An artist is someone who has the ability to pull elements together and create an image that they see in their head. Drawing from a reference piece, I have very little difficulty taking a picture of something and then being able to recreate that or create the photograph that I can take. But I have these memories of our trips around the world and the different locations we've been at, the beaches we've been at, the animals that I've seen, and the feeling that they create in me is what I would like to be able to learn how to create. And so that's my long-term artist goal, is to be able to do that with practice. And so I will continue to work at that. Anyways, so as I was teaching in elementary school, I got a name for myself as an artist and was asked to teach in a high school. Teaching in the high school for me was awesome. If anybody is looking for probably the best teaching gig you could ever get, that would be being an art teacher. What I did, my art class was set up in such a way that the first 10 minutes I taught art theory and the basic theory on what you need to know how to do, and be able to speak the same language I do when I'm referring to your piece of artwork. After that, we would spend the rest of and the classes were normally an hour long. We'd spend the next 45 minutes painting or doing whatever art we were working on at that time. And then we would have the 10-minute cleanup at the end. So that was the standard structure of my class. During which time, when the students were working on their work, I also had time every single period and every single day, a day that I taught, to create with the students. So if the students were doing a landscape painting, then we would work together on the landscape painting. The thing that I tried not to ever do in an art class was to have everyone create exactly the same painting. There were times where people would say, okay, listen, we would like to do landscape painting. So I'm teaching you how to do watercolor landscapes. And so what I would do is I would do the theory and what they needed to know from the theory point of view in the class. And then what I would do is I would paint a very quick watercolor landscape. And then the students would go away and find a reference painting or reference picture that they wanted to work from in order to create their own work. So every single student created a different landscape. I found it very seldomly would we all create exactly the same thing. It made it very interesting, and it allows people to work on their passions, which I think is very important. It also allows them to bring out a little bit of their own personality into it. So the people that were into science fiction could do a space landscape. The people who were into whichever country they had come from, because we had a fair number of immigrants in our school, and Canada is made up of a whole pile of different people from all over the world. And so you would have people that would create this is where I'm from, this is Jamaica is where I'm from, this is what I would create, and that would make it so very exciting. I have very few paintings that I've ever created that I am so proud of because I didn't make any mistakes on it. Artists are always famous for being able to pick out the problems that they see in their work. But I think artists are also people who always strive to get better. And that's a beautiful thing for people to learn how to do. So if you create something or if you're working on something, it will get better the more times you do it. So if you keep doing the same, if you're doing flowers and you're painting flowers over and over again, sooner or later you're going to get a really good flower. I found that I get very bored very quickly. And so I've done sculptures, I've done 3D work in wood, in soapstone carvings, and metal. And because I was working in an art class and the upper level students had the opportunity to come in and say, geez, I'd like to do soapstone carving. And I said, okay, that's a great idea. I've never done it before. Let's do one together. And then I would work with that student together, and we'd create he would create a soapstone carving and I'd create a soapstone carving. And one of the students came in and said, geez, I'd like to do a big mural. And so we did murals together. And so all of this, the progress in the 9 years that I taught art was for me a very learning environment. I learned a lot. I'm hoping that my students learned a lot, but I found it to be very an exciting environment to create the digital world, and then started to create works on my computer using a mouse, and then on my iPad using an Apple Pencil or a stylus of some sort. And so that's been my medium of choice now, because I found that the mobility of being able to draw anytime on your phone, on your tablet, or on your computer allows you to um, do it wherever you want. And so if you're traveling, and there's a lot of places, like I said, when we traveled around the world, trip. And so I was really impacted by going to South Africa and doing safaris and seeing the animals in their natural habitat, and was amazed at some of the power that the big cats have. And so there was a time there where I was really into drawing the big cats. I saw a falcon when we were in Dubai in one of the malls, and actually he actually stood on my hand, and I looked at that falcon and I went, oh, that's amazing. And had a chance to look at his eyes and look at his body and his feathers and all that stuff, and then tried to create that power, and then did a whole series of different animals, birds based on that. When we were in Singapore, we got a chance to see some red pandas. And I'm not even sure if it was Singapore, in one of the Asian countries. Anyways, we got a chance to go to one of the zoos, and it had the red pandas there. And it was the first time I'd ever seen a red panda, and was amazed at just the temperament of a red panda. And so these things that I saw as I traveled sparked a feeling in me that I had to create and I had to express in my own style. Traveling seeing the world, seeing the beauty that is created around the world, and the different structures that are built by man, the structures that are built by Mother Nature, the sunsets, the waves crashing on a shore. All those things are catalysts or incentives for me to create. And so I find that if I spend a long time where I haven't drawn anything, then I'll get very excited. When I see other people's work, a lot of time I'll look at someone else's work and I'll go, "Oh my God, that's beautiful!" And I said, "I think I'd like to try that." And then I would try to copy that work as closely as I possibly can. And there's lots of pieces of work that I have created that look just like some of the famous artists that are out there. And people go, "Oh, that's really nice," and said, "But isn't that just like so and so's painting?" Yeah, because I was trying to learn how that person used the light and how they used their work in order to get to the point that they're at.